If you clicked on this video, it's because you're looking to scale your info offer to 100, 200, 300, 400, $500,000, even $1 million a month and beyond with the webinar funnel. So I'm going to be breaking down the exact process that we used to scale our clients from $0 to $108,000 in just 30 days. As you can see here, how we generated $60,000 in just 6 days for one of our clients, how we booked 72 appointments in just a day and even hit a $20,000 day by lunchtime. This is also the exact system that we used to get results like this, $111,000 cash collected in just a 7-day time period, and even results like this where we're hitting $40,000 cash collected in just 2 days. That's $20,000 per day with this system. So here is the system that we run. It all starts with the conversion mechanism, paid ads and organic content that can be YouTube and Instagram. We then go to a register page where people put in their contact information. They consume a short VSL explaining what the webinar will be about. There's also a thank you page after you register with a VIP upsell. As you can see here, this is an example. Get VIP for $47, or you have the option to not get the VIP and stay poor. The whole purpose of this is to get high intent leads that pay for the $47. And a great thing about this is you can liquidate between 20 to 30% of your ad spend through doing this. Now, after this thank you page, we have a webinar confirmation video, which has a VSL just quickly explaining a bit more about the webinar and the next steps. You have webinar agenda for the people. You have FAQs with chapters to pre-handle any objections, and you have long form content and results to nudge people, show social proof, and show that you can actually make money in the business model. Because remember, you're going to be running cold traffic to this webinar, so you need to show social proof that this actually works. Now, in terms of the pixel, you have a few different options for where you want to put it. The first option is putting your pixel on the thank you page and optimizing for leads. And the second option is putting the pixel on the $47 upsell page and optimizing for people that buy the upsell. But if your pixel is brand new, I definitely recommend putting it on the thank you page, not the VIP upsell, as on the thank you page, you'll be able to get data as fast as possible. Now, after the thank you page, you want to be implementing a few different things to ensure people actually show up to the webinar, such as 3 emails per day. Make sure they're value dense, they show social proof, they build trust, and they have reminders. You can also implement hammer them ads, which is 20 plus value dense pieces of short form content. Also giving FAQs, pre-handling objections on those hammer them ads, and then also send out immediate 24 hours, 6 hours, 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute live, and 30-minute after live reminders to all people that register to ensure that the show rate is high. Now, for the actual VIP upsell package, you want to give them value, but not too much to the point where they don't want to show up to the webinar. One great thing that we do is we have a one-on-one implementation call with the closer. This is basically just an upsell call where the closer will qualify the lead and see if they are a good fit for the higher tier package. Like I said, though, this does completely depend on the financial qualification level of the prospect. So real quick, let me go back over here. We are live. This is the live webinar. And obviously at the end of the live webinar, there's a pitch and a CTA to book a call. Now, one super important thing that you need to be doing is retargeting all webinar engagement to a replay call funnel. You can exclude people that showed up to the webinar and stayed to the end till the pitch, but everybody else should be getting retargeted to this replay funnel to ensure maximum cash is getting collected. Essentially, download the replay of the webinar, cut the intro, cut the end bit, and add an application button at the bottom. Now, when it comes to the actual sales calls, there's a few things you want to be doing depending on the financial qualification level of people. Obviously, if they're qualified, the closer sells them on the main high ticket package. However, if prospects aren't qualified, you need to sell them on a low ticket / downsell and potentially upsell them in the future. One great example is a $100 per month package. Sellers can reach out and sell them themselves. An email sequence can also be designed to ascend these people that got downsold and send them into the higher tier package. The whole purpose of this is to maximize the leads that you got. You paid for these leads, you want to liquidate ad spend, you want to get the highest return on that ad spend as possible. So do not leave any cash on the table, and make sure that even if someone can't afford the high ticket package, you're still selling them on a lower tier package. Now, the overall structure of this webinar is you're going to run 1 times organic / retargeting webinar per month. And then other than that, you're going to run weekly cold traffic webinars. The whole reason you only do 1 organic or retargeting webinar per month is because if you do it more frequently, you can actually fatigue your organic audience, and they're just going to sit there and say, oh, this guy's running webinars every single week, I'll just show up to the next one. That's not what you want to be doing. You want to be running 1 per month with organic and retargeting. This will typically have the highest return on ad spend. And then also a weekly cold traffic webinar where you're targeting people that haven't seen you before and haven't engaged with your content. So now we've covered the basic structure of the webinar. Let me go into the more specific stuff about how to actually run, launch, promote, and collect cash from the webinars. So the first thing is promotion timelines and campaign setup. Now, if you've never ran a webinar before, you need to be promoting from 7 to 10 days, test and get validation before you increase spend. But if you have a proven webinar, you've already ran webinars previously, then you can promote from 3 to 5 days. Now, you don't want to be promoting the webinar too far out because you want the majority of spend to be dedicated towards 72 hours before the live webinar. This is because the closer to the webinar, the higher the chances of prospects actually showing up. If you promote 10 days out, 14 days out, the chances are someone isn't going to show up for your webinar. Whereas if you promote the day before or 2 days before, your ads hit the prospect, they sign up, there's a much higher chance of that person actually showing up. Now, in terms of campaign setup, you want to run one cold campaign with 3 ad sets. You want to have a broad ad set, a lookalike audience if you can, and an interest stack. The lookalike audience should typically be previous buyers on your offer. What we like to do is sort by the people who have paid the most, download their data and put it into Meta. The second campaign should be a retargeting campaign, which should be one ad set. You should have 180-day engagement retargeting from your Instagram. Now, that campaign is optional. Obviously, you don't need an organic audience to run webinars. If you're going completely cold, you won't need that. But if you do already have organic reach, I do suggest retargeting. Now, in terms of the actual landing page layout, you want to have a headline with the ICP callout, either VSL or no VSL. I recommend split testing between both and seeing which one converts the best. Application button, webinar agenda, testimonials, and info about the creator. Obviously, if you're targeting cold people that won't know anything about you, it's important that you get people to know, like, and trust you before they actually hop on that webinar. So here's a few quick examples of landing pages and what they should look like. As you can see, this is an Airbnb offer. You have the headline, short VSL, and a drop timer, a nice ICP call out, learn live how Australians are making $11,500 per month passively on Airbnb without owning property. And then down here, we have a section which explains what we're covering on the live training, what the webinar will be about, sets the frame and the agenda, and it builds hype around the webinar. And finally, the section at the bottom sets expectations that links to the ICP's pain points, which is super, super important because you want to be speaking directly to your ideal avatar. Now, here's another landing page for webinars. This is one of our trading clients, Andre, who we ran a webinar for. We run weekly webinars for him consistently, and we do over $200,000 per month. As you can see, it's pretty much the same structure: headline, drop timer, register button, what we're covering on the training and why this trading system works. And then at the very bottom, we have a bit explaining who Andre is as a trader to build that trust and rapport with the audience. Like I said, if you're targeting cold, this is super important because you don't want people getting on the webinar and they don't know anything about you. You want to make people feel like you've been in that position before. So like I said before, relating to the ICP's pain points, calling them out is very, very important. Now let's get into some webinar best practices. The first thing is having an upsell page. Create a $47 to $100 low ticket offer that people have the option to purchase after signing up for the webinar. The deliverables should naturally allow people to want to show up and ascend. For example, access to XYZ software, free implementation call, which is essentially just an upsell call with the closer, a free guide on XYZ subject, and overall this should liquidate between 15 to 30% of ad spend. That shouldn't be your goal. The goal should just be to get high intent leads, optimize your pixel for those high intent leads, but the liquidation of the ad spend is just an added bonus. Now, in terms of the thank you page that people get redirected to after applying, you should pre-sell people on a quick 2 to 3 minute VSL. You should set expectations. You should give them next steps, such as confirming their email or joining a Telegram/WhatsApp group. This is part of our indoctrination process, which we'll get into in a second. You should have FAQs, frequently asked questions to pre-handle objections, and you should have testimonials on that thank you page to build rapport, trust, and social proof. Now, going into the pre-webinar process, there's a few key practices that you need to implement to ensure people who apply actually show up to the webinar. The average show rate on a webinar should be between 30 to 40%, depending on if you're using organic retargeting or not. If you're completely cold, it's typically going to be around 30%. If you have organic retargeting in the mix, it might be a bit higher, but 30% is the ball mark that you should be aiming for. So this is the exact process that we use pre-webinar to ensure that that actually is achievable. We send out 2 to 4 value-dense emails daily. Don't just spam reminders. People hate just getting spammed or reminders. Make sure that the emails actually contain value that the prospects can implement. It's actually stuff that when people read it, they'll leave that email thinking, wow, that was valuable. That was a good use of my time. The next thing that you need to be doing is using Telegram or WhatsApp, depending on your niche. I'll give you a quick example. Our trading client, we use Telegram for him because obviously as a trader, you're probably using Telegram quite frequently. You're already familiar with the app, so it's best practice to use that. What we see most often is the more affluent audiences typically work best with WhatsApp, and the less affluent audiences/more general audiences work well with Telegram. So in these group chats, you want to run an indoctrination process. This is similar to the emails in the sense that it's 2 to 4 messages daily. These messages will contain value, results, testimonials, pre-handling objections, and FAQs. Also sending out reminders so people don't forget when the webinar is. One super cool thing that we like to do is get the creators to film a personal video of themselves on their selfie camera to make the group chats feel a lot more interactive and one-to-one with the creator. On top of that, we run SMS reminders. This is immediate, 24 hours prior to the webinar, 6 hours before, 3 hours, 1 hour, 15 minutes, 5 minutes live, and 30 minutes after live, just in case people after the live show up, they can join and still watch the pitch. Now, moving over to the live webinar presentation, there's a few things that you need to be doing to ensure that the conversion rate is high. In the first 5 minutes, open strong, introduce yourself, who you are, engage with the chat. This will help with retention rate. After that, make sure you're calling out the ICP, speaking directly to their core problem that they are facing, explaining why it's difficult for them to solve the problem without the right guidance, make them feel seen like you're speaking directly to their situation. After that, it's important that you relate to the prospect, talk about when you were in the same position that they're in right now, walk through what you tried and what you didn't to get you to where you are today, and bring them to the moment where everything changed for you. This is the epiphany moment. Now, the next 20 minutes of the webinar needs to deliver real value. It needs to break down 3 to 5 actionable steps that they can take straight away. Break each one up with real examples and real results. Social proof is key here, as it will build trust on the webinar and show people what is actually possible when they implement what you're teaching. Now, the value is super, super important. I always say give away the information and sell the implementation. You want to leave the person thinking this person genuinely knows what they are talking about. After this, it's important to back it up with even more proof, more case studies, more wins, more social proof, more client testimonials. Use before and after results where possible and help the person see that people in that exact situation have already made that specific business model, whatever you're pitching, work. After the social proof, the case studies, the testimonials, before and after results, you want to introduce your offer, present what you're offering and the problem that it solves. You want to walk people through everything that they get access to, then reveal the price live on the webinar, but frame the value first so that the number lands right. For example, the total perceived value of your offer might be $20,000, but when you reveal the price, you only reveal it at $3,500 or $5,000. This is an important frame because it will allow your offer to be perceived as something that is very high in value. Now, after you pitch, you want to handle objections, address any hesitations and doubts that people are likely sitting with, and make sure you're answering questions that come up most. Run a Q&A at the end. We always like to run Q&As, answer people's questions, and whilst you're running the Q&A, link it back to the offer and continue pitching throughout. So congratulations, you've just finished your webinar, you've just finished the pitch. Now it's time for the post-webinar process. If the post-webinar process is executed correctly, it can account for an extra 30% of your cash collected in revenue. Meaning if you collected $100,000 just from the webinar, the post-webinar process can collect you up to $30,000 extra dollars. So the first thing that you want to be doing is redirecting all webinar opt-in no-shows to a 7-day webinar replay funnel. All shows that didn't book at the end at the pitch, you want to redirect them to a 7-day call funnel. This is because they've already consumed the whole webinar, they've seen the pitch, they've already been nurtured, and they just need to convert on the back end. And then all the shows who dropped off early before the pitch, redirect them to a 7-day webinar replay funnel. This should all be done through retargeting ads, and it almost works like a content-first ad strategy, where the prospects didn't convert live on the webinar, but the webinar was the nurturing asset that allowed prospects to convert later down the line. So this is the retargeting ad process that you need to run after your webinar. On top of that, you want to have your outbound team start ripping dials from all opt-ins and leads, confirm all appointments that booked from the webinar. This is the most important thing. The first thing that you need to be doing, getting your setters to triage all the appointments that were booked live. Then you want to call all applicants who didn't book. So if someone applied, maybe there's a partial submission in your type form and they didn't book in on the Calendly, you want to dial those guys. And then after that, make sure your setters are calling all people who are live but didn't even apply. And the final group of people that your setters need to dial is the remaining opt-ins. Now, best practice for this is assigning one setter per group. And this way, each group can get dialed with speed. And no group is just sitting there waiting to be dialed for days on end. Now, after this 7-day webinar replay funnel, you want to run cool funnel retargeting, where you retarget everyone who didn't book in from the live webinar or replay funnel and direct them to the cool funnel. Basically, it's just a content-first ad strategy, like I said, where you convert them on the back end. So this is all great. You've got the leads, but how do you actually convert those leads on the back end and make sure that they show up to calls? Let me show you. So the sales process and the pre-call process, there's a few best practices which we follow and which you should follow, which will ensure that people show up to the calls, and not only do they show up, but those deals close. In terms of email marketing, you should send between 6 to 12 value-dense emails before the call, depending on when it is. For example, if the call is in like 5 hours, you probably don't want to send 12 emails in 5 hours. So it should all be based on cadence. These can be a mix of testimonials, social proof FAQs, pre-handling objections, and breaking down common limiting beliefs. Now, you should also be sending automated texts, emails, upon booking. You should be sending them 24 hours before the call, 1 hour before the call, 10 minutes before the call, and when the call is actually live, containing the meeting link so prospects can actually join up. These should look and feel automated, contain the time of appointment, and also the pre-call page. Now, this is optional, but if you do have extra budget to allocate, it can literally just be $500 to $1,000. I do recommend running FAQ and Hammer Them ads. These are specific retargeting ads that only get shown to people when they book in a call. It should be 30 ad creatives, value dense. The whole idea is, how can we take someone from a cold lead to a hot level of organic intent before their call? On top of that, we run a redirect to the pre-call page, and we also set 10 exposures as the minimum for prospects before their call, so that they actually receive the value on those Hammer Them ads. Now, this is a recurring theme, but it's super, super important. Make sure you are showing results, social proof, testimonials, especially if you're running cold traffic. You need to show people that this works, that if they implement it, they can get these results as well. Now, in terms of the actual sales team, other than A-Star Talent, having everyone dialed in and hitting KPIs, there are a few things that you can do. So for our sales teams, what we get them to do is text, dial, text. We do this because it reduces the risk of spam when they text first. Hey, it's XYZ from XYZ team. I saw you applied about XYZ, right? You text them first, then you dial them. If they don't pick up, you dial them one more time. And if they don't pick up the second time, you send them a text. Hey, name, let me know when you're free. On top of that, you need to triage to confirm financial qualifications for all prospects that book in and ensure that the prospect can actually show up to the call. Also, send over personalized assets and testimonials based on the prospect's specific pain points, lifestyle, and demographic. So when your setters are dialing the prospect, it's super important that they find out their specific pain points so that they can actually send them personalized assets to them specifically. On top of that, make sure your sales team are creating group chats with each other. So the setter creates a group chat with the prospect and the closer, introduces the closer so that the closer is not a stranger to the prospect. If the closer is a stranger, the chances are the show rate is going to be a lot lower. Now, morning of, always send confirmation texts. And if there is no response to the confirmation texts, make sure you're dialing 3 hours prior to the call to ensure that you can confirm. So to kind of summarize, this was the exact full system that we used with weekly webinars to scale clients from $0 to $180,000 in just 30 days, to hit $60,000 in just 6 days, to book 72 appointments in one day, and even have days that are collecting $20,000 cash. By the way, this wasn't just one day where we collected 20K. We've done this day after day after day, collecting $20,000 each day consistently. So if you're interested in getting results like these, we collected over $111,000 in just 7 days. First of all, make sure you drop my Instagram a follow. Second of all, if you're a coach, consultant, agency owner, book a call with the link in the description, and we can talk about how we can do this for yourself and your own business. If you thought this video was valuable, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Peace.